The audience stopped laughing, and Jimmy Fallon, the nicest man in television, was staring at the woman across from him with an expression nobody had ever seen on his face. It started with a joke. Just a simple, playful joke, the kind Jimmy had made 10,000 times before. Meghan didn't laugh. Meghan said something back that made the studio go so quiet you could hear the air conditioning. Jimmy tried again, softer setup. Her response was worse. Then Jimmy asked about the Met Gala, gently, carefully, offering her a chance to address the elephant everyone had been talking about for weeks. What she said in the final exchange, the words that would be replayed on every entertainment site by morning, made Jimmy Fallon do something he'd never done in 12 years behind that desk. He stopped trying to be nice. This is the interview that changed everything. Subscribe now, hit that notification bell, and let's see what happened. Studio 6B in Rockefeller Center had its usual electric energy, the roots warming up, the audience buzzing with anticipation, the familiar feeling of late-night television at its most welcoming. Tonight's booking had generated significant excitement. Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex, discussing her advocacy work. Meghan arrived with an entourage that seemed excessive for a late-night talk show. Publicist, communications handler, stylist, security. She walked onto the stage with careful precision, accepted Jimmy's warm hug with measured reciprocity, settled into the guest chair with attention to camera angles. "Meghan, welcome to the show," Jimmy beamed. "Thank you for having me, Jimmy. We're gonna have so much fun. That's what we do here, just fun. I'm looking forward to it." The camera started rolling. The roots played her in. Everything seemed normal. It wouldn't stay that way. "So, first things first," Jimmy began with characteristic enthusiasm. "California living. How's that going? I hear Montecito is basically paradise with better avocados." The audience chuckled. Meghan's smile was present but didn't reach her eyes. "We've built a meaningful life there." "Meaningful life? That's great! What's the best part? The weather, the tacos, the ability to go outside without 17 photographers chasing you?" "The privacy has been valuable." "Privacy in California? That's like finding quiet in Times Square. But okay, what do you do for fun out there? Beach, hiking, screaming into the void about housing prices?" No laugh, not even a polite chuckle. "We focus on our family and our work." Jimmy's smile flickered for just a moment. "Right, family and work. Very, very serious. We should play a game later, lighten things up a bit. You like games?" "I prefer substantive conversation." The roots exchanged glances. Questlove raised an eyebrow. "Okay, substantive," Jimmy adjusted, his tone slightly more careful. "Let's talk about the foundation. Archwell, what's the project you're most excited about right now?" "We're building partnerships that create systemic change across multiple sectors." "Partnerships with whom? Give us some names. Let us get excited with you." "Various organizations aligned with our values." "That's very vague. I interview people promoting things all the time. They usually want to tell me about them, specifically, with enthusiasm. What's Archwell actually doing this week?" Meghan's expression cooled. "Our work isn't about weekly announcements. It's about long-term impact." "Long-term impact that you can't describe in the short term? That's an interesting approach. Most foundations can point to something concrete. A school built, a policy changed, a person helped by name. What's yours?" "We focus on cultural shifts rather than quantifiable metrics." "Cultural shifts you can't measure. Convenient. When something can't be measured, it can't fail. But it also can't be proven to succeed." The audience had gone quiet. This wasn't the fun they'd expected. "Let me try something lighter," Jimmy said, attempting to reset the energy. "The Met Gala, fashion's biggest night. You weren't there this year. Again. What happened?" Meghan stiffened visibly. "I had other commitments." "Other commitments on the first Monday in May?" The night every celebrity in the world blocks out years in advance? That must have been some commitment. My schedule is complex. Your schedule. Right. Because the reports say you weren't invited, that Anna Wintour specifically kept you off the list. Any truth to that? I don't respond to tabloid speculation. This wasn't tabloids. This was fashion industry sources, multiple outlets, the kind of coordination that suggests actual information rather than speculation. Meghan grabbed her water glass. I have no interest in the Met Gala. No interest in fashion's biggest event? You who've built an entire brand around style? Who's launched a lifestyle company? Who did a cover with British Vogue? Suddenly no interest? My priorities have evolved. Evolved toward what? Because from outside, it looks like priorities evolved after the invite didn't come. That's not evolution. That's rationalization. You mentioned British Vogue, Jimmy continued. The Forces for Change issue. That collaboration reportedly caused friction with Anna Wintour. Something about choosing Edward Enninful over her. Care to address that? Editorial relationships are complex. Complex. Everything's complex with you. Family complex, schedule complex, editorial relationships complex. At some point, complex becomes code for I don't want to answer. I'm being thoughtful with my responses. You're being evasive with your responses. Thoughtful would be considering the question and providing insight. What you're doing is deflecting with sophisticated vocabulary. I do this for a living. I recognize the difference. Meghan's smile had vanished entirely. This interview is becoming hostile. Hostile? I asked about your foundation. You gave me nothing. I asked about the Met Gala. You blamed your schedule. I asked about Vogue. You said it's complex. Where's the hostility? I'm asking basic questions about your public life. Your tone has shifted. My tone has shifted because I've been trying to have a conversation for 10 minutes, and you've given me press releases. This show is about fun, connection, actual human exchange. You're giving me nothing to work with. Jimmy turned to the roots. Guys, am I being unreasonable here? Questlove spoke carefully. The questions seem pretty standard, Jimmy. Thank you. Standard questions. That's what they are. He turned back to Meghan. Let me try something even simpler. What brings you joy? Not purpose, not meaning. Simple, uncomplicated joy. A pause that went on too long. My children. Great. What did Archie do this week that made you laugh? Silence. What did Lilibet say yesterday that surprised you? More silence. You can't tell me. A mom who came here to discuss her life, and you can't access a single joyful moment with your kids from the past week? That's really something. I protect their privacy. I'm not asking you to show me pictures. I'm asking you to remember a moment. Every parent I know, and I know a lot of parents, can tell me something specific about their kids from today. The fact that you can't is interesting. Maybe we should play a game, Jimmy suggested, grasping for the format that always worked. How about thank you notes? Simple, fun. We write thank you notes to random things. Everyone loves it. I'd prefer to continue discussing my work. Your work that you can't describe specifically? What would we even discuss? The partnerships you won't name? The impact you can't measure? The cultural shifts you can't point to? My work speaks for itself. Does it? Because I've genuinely tried to find what it says. The website has beautiful words, mission statements, values. What I can't find is outcomes. People helped, lives changed, something concrete that exists because Archewell exists. We're playing the long game. The long game. That's what people say when the short game isn't producing results. At some point, the long game has to show something. Otherwise, it's just waiting, dressed up as strategy. Meghan stood up partially. This isn't what I expected. Jimmy's expression shifted, the perpetual cheerfulness finally cracking. What did you expect? That I'd let you deliver talking points for 15 minutes and we'd all applaud? That's not what this show is. We have conversations here, real ones, where people actually answer questions and share genuine moments and act like human beings. I've been genuine, you've been guarded. Every response calculated, every answer designed to reveal nothing while appearing open. In 12 years, I've never encountered someone so determined to not actually be present in their own interview. I'm present. You're performing presence. There's a difference. Present means being here, responding to what's actually asked, sharing something real. You've shared nothing. Zero. You couldn't tell me what your foundation does, what makes you happy, what your kids did this week. What can you tell me? Meghan grabbed her purse. I think we're done. We're done because you decided we're done. Because questions got too real. Because someone expected more than talking points. Jimmy shook his head. I've had guests who are going through divorces, guests who are grieving, guests who are terrified of live television. They all managed to participate. They all managed to be human. You don't understand my position. Your position of being wealthy, famous, and invited onto shows to promote your work? That position? Most people would kill for that position. Most people would show up grateful and engage genuinely. You showed up defended and gave me nothing. Meghan moved toward the stage exit. You'll regret how you treated me today. I'll regret asking what your foundation does. I'll regret asking about the Met Gala. I'll regret asking what makes you happy. Those are the gentlest possible questions. If those feel like mistreatment, examine what you're protecting. Everyone attacks me. Everyone asks you questions. Questions aren't attacks. The fact that you can't tell the difference is the problem. Meghan paused at the edge of the stage. This will be characterized as me being ambushed. This will be characterized as you being unable to handle a talk show. A talk show, Meghan. We play games here. We do silly bits. We make people laugh. You couldn't handle that. What does that say about where you are? It says I have standards. It says you have walls. Walls so high that even kindness can't get through. I tried to make you laugh. I tried to play games. I tried to find something, anything that would feel like genuine connection. You blocked it all. Connection requires respect. Connection requires participation. You didn't participate. You delivered prepared statements and treated every question as hostile. That's not connection. That's performance. And not even a good one. Meghan left. The studio door closed behind her. The Roots sat in stunned silence. The audience didn't know whether to applaud or sit in shock. Jimmy stood at his desk for a long moment, the trademark smile completely absent. Well, that's never happened before. He walked back to his desk slowly, settling into his chair with none of his usual energy. I want to address what just occurred, because it's going to be discussed. He looked directly at the camera. I asked Meghan Markle about her foundation. She couldn't tell me what it does. I asked about the Met Gala. She blamed her schedule. I asked about her children. She couldn't access a single moment of joy. I offered to play games. She declined everything. He spread his hands. This show exists to create fun, to help people relax, to have genuine conversations that feel like hanging out with friends. In 12 years, almost everyone has understood that, has played along, has been present. He shook his head. What I experienced just now wasn't a difficult guest. It was an absent one. Someone so defended against genuine interaction that even my show, this show, felt like threat. And if this show feels like threat, I don't know what feels safe. Questlove spoke from behind his drums. That was something else, man. Yeah, it was. Jimmy rubbed his face. I tried everything. Every technique I know for making people comfortable. Nothing worked. Because she didn't want to be comfortable. She wanted to be controlled. And controlled isn't what we do here. Tariq added, You asked about her kids. She couldn't remember anything. Right? Any parent can tell you something their kid did today. That's not privacy protection. That's disconnection. You can't be that disconnected from your own children and call it privacy. Jimmy turned back to the camera. When we come back, we're going to do something fun. Because that's what this show is supposed to be. What it just was, I don't want that to define us. But I also don't regret the questions. Every single one was an invitation to connect. She declined them all. He forced a slight smile. Back in a moment, with someone who hopefully wants to actually be here. The footage aired that night. NBC made no edits. The clips that spread captured the transformation of late night's friendliest host. You're being evasive with your responses. I do this for a living. I recognize the difference. A mom who came here to discuss her life, and you can't access a single joyful moment with your kids from the past week? What I can't find is outcomes. People helped. Lives changed. You're performing presence. There's a difference. If this show feels like threat, I don't know what feels safe. Meghan's team released a statement calling the appearance an ambush that violated the agreed promotional format and the spirit of late-night entertainment. Jimmy addressed it on the following night's show. Ambush? I offered to play thank you notes. I asked what makes her happy. I asked what her kids did this week. Those are ambush questions? On a show where we once had a guest do karaoke with a mouthful of marshmallows? That's the ambush she's describing? He paused, then added, I've been doing this for 12 years. I've made this show the friendliest place on television. Everyone feels welcome here. She didn't feel welcome because she didn't want to be present. You can't feel welcome somewhere you're refusing to actually enter. That's not my failure. That's her choice. For Jimmy Fallon, the interview became an unexpected turning point, proof that even the nicest host in television had limits, and that 12 years of making everyone comfortable couldn't penetrate defenses that had become permanent. For Meghan Markle, it was devastating in a particular way. This wasn't hostile journalism or political commentary. This was Jimmy Fallon, the man who played beer pong with celebrities, who wrote thank you notes to random objects, who made everyone laugh. Being unable to handle Jimmy Fallon suggested something beyond media training could address. But for the millions who watched, something else emerged. The contrast between what Jimmy offered, games, laughter, genuine warmth, every possible chance to be human, and what Meghan returned, walls, deflection, and ultimate departure, told its own story. Jimmy had offered to play games. She'd refused them all. Jimmy had asked about joy. She couldn't find any. Jimmy had tried to make her laugh. She'd made him stop smiling. And in that exchange, in that fundamental inability to accept warmth when it was freely offered, everything anyone needed to know about what Meghan Markle had become was revealed. Some people light up when given space to be human. Others prove they've forgotten how. Jimmy offered every chance imaginable. She took none of them. The nicest man in television, the friendliest show on TV, and she still couldn't play along. What does that tell you about what's really happening? If you want more content that recognizes walls when it sees them, subscribe. This is where the real observations happen. More truth, more warmth refused, more of what everyone else won't name. Stay with us.